Welcome to Savanna Techie. My name is Rafael Ndwiga and I'll be your host for this video. The objective of this video is how to be a programmer. Okay, and should you really be a programmer? So yeah, so basically we look at it. Now, a programmer uh, is an individual who writes or creates computer software or applications, okay, by um, using programming language, which basically translates down to instructions, telling the computer what it should and what it should not do. Computers are rather dumb. Uh, apart from uh, artificial intelligence, of which is basically a bunch of if statements and loops and data. Well, it's also created. Now, why do you really want to be a programmer? So, the first thing you need to do is to understand why you want to start programming. And to do that, you need to answer the question, why do you want to learn programming? What do you hope to do with the new language, with the new knowledge? Okay. And are you really serious about learning to program? And what sort of programming do you want to do? Okay. Now, for some people like me, I knew I wanted to be a programmer. Actually, initially, I wanted to be an astronaut. Okay, straight from high school. No, straight from primary. When I got to high school, I discovered that um, being an astronaut is not enough. You need to specialize in something. All astronauts have specialized in one particular task that they are really good at. So I decided, okay, to be an astronaut, then I want to deal with machines. I need to be able to tell machines or computers what they wanted to do. So I made sure that my STEM courses, that is physics, mathematics, chemistry, biology, and that I really did perform well in them. Now you may not have known that you wanted to do programming like I did, but you are kind of sick of your current career, okay, or you have a problem that you see that is best suited if you knew a bit on how to write code. Now, the word of programming is vast. There's different kinds of programmers out there, and the main language that you focus on really determine what you want to do. Okay, so a programmer basically works in being able to solve problems, and the kinds of problems you are solving is more in terms of automation, or some basically creating websites. You want to know how do you store or handle data. Okay, maybe you have played a game and said, oh my, I need to be able to is it possible for me to develop my own game. So you may have developed the passion for programming based on your day-to-day activities, or a particular challenge that you encountered that is best suited for it. For some people, you may come from, say, you are a salesperson, and or you are a liaison, and you're trying to explain to your vendor on the kind of solution that you want to be developed, but it seems that there's a breakdown between what you're saying and what is being delivered. And that one may also jumpstart your career as a software developer. Now, uh, software a programmer, I usually say the best programmer, usually the most lazy. Why? Because for programmers, you want to solve a task in such a way that um, the program that you write, it will make it easy for you to do your work. So, for example, if you're an accountant and you find that the software that you're using, the accounting software that you're currently using at a place of work, they really are not doing, they're not really helping you out, and you're forced to start using Excel to write formulas that really should have been done by a software. So you may decide, okay, now how about I just build my own accounting software that will be able to automate such of those particular tasks. And when you learn programming and you actually do it, you find that some of the tasks that you took, say, half a day to do, the program that you have built will actually do it in less than 5 minutes, um, depending on whether or not there's analytics to be done or there is a lot of data entries to be done for you to get the final output. Now, that thing about programmers are basically like doctors. What do I mean by this? Is that you never stop learning. Okay, you will find a challenge that it will have you scratching your head to the point whereby you might even go bald, uh, or you might find yourself you really won't uh, get sometimes in a bad mood, and you ask yourself, what did you get yourself into? Okay, now if you've already figured out that that really I mean that you are hook, line, and sinker. Okay, and it's really what you want to do, and there's no going back about it. And you have a certain that it's the actual thing that really, apart from great pay that programmers usually get, that's something that you will come to enjoy. I know I enjoy it. I can write code in my sleep, wake me up. I'll probably write code, solve a problem, even when there was even when I'm down. I'll find that um, solving a challenge, a technical challenge, really gets me in good moods. Okay, so I can say programming is therapeutic to me. Now, having established or understood why you want to start programming, then the next thing you need to consider is what field do you want to go into? Okay, do you want to be a web developer that you want to create beautiful sites? Uh, you want to create user experience that you're really not seeing out there. So, or do you want to be a software engineer or software programmer? So that means, do you want to, you're not interested with websites, but really you want to build solutions or software such as an operating system like Linus Torvald did, okay? Or you want to build or you want to be another Bill Gates, um, or other great um, inventors that that are or rather great inventors and business persons such as Zuckerberg, Bezos, and the likes. Or we may decide, okay, um, I really don't want to write programs, but I really love data. I want to make sense of data. Okay. So do you want to be a data scientist? Do you love working with the data? Okay. So you love working with the data, and then being a data scientist makes sense for you. Now, another thing is maybe you love playing games and you'd like to develop your own game and share it with your friends and make money from selling your games. So are you that particular kind of is that what you want to do? So do you want to be a game developer? Currently we are moving into Web3. You've heard about blockchain, and you probably know of Bitcoin. Bitcoin leverages on blockchain technology, and Web3 leverages on the blockchain technology also. So do you want to start building your applications uh, using blockchain technology for Web3? So as you can see, the programming world is vast, and knowing what you want to do is crucial for your success. What do I mean? Is that when you start programming, you have to select a language. You have to learn a language, say at minimum three. Okay, and learning a new language is it's not easy. It's hard. It's like being taught how to talk in a different language. So you have to learn the syntax, and then you need to practice it. You practice that language. If there are three, you are practicing three different languages day in, day out, to be really good at it in using them in solving problems. Because once you're really good at a language, then it becomes easy for you to pick up others. But then some languages, for example, R is used by data scientists, and it's primarily used for data analytics. So rather than learning R and then later on to find that, oh no, I really wanted to be a web developer, it means that you really did lose there some time by selecting the wrong language for you to learn. Okay. Um, you may also not be sure that, okay, I'm not sure which field I want to go. I'm not sure that I want to be a data scientist, a mobile app developer, game developer, but I really want to get started. My advice is start with the language that teaches you about computers, like really gets you to learn the inner workings of a computer. And for that, start with C. It's not easy, it's challenging, but C has something that the rest of programming languages do not have. Modern languages such as Java, Swift, Kotlin, C++, C hash, Ruby, even PHP, all of them are based on C. They all have elements of C in them. So if you want to be able to understand those languages easily and really optimize your solutions, then C is a really great language to start with. Okay. And then apart from now knowing which languages you want, then start by solving pick a project. Start by solving a problem. Pick a project. The most popular one is build a blogging engine. Okay. For example, decide to build a clone of WordPress. WordPress is used to WordPress is used in by web developers for creating websites. So pick a language, for example, let's say it's Python, and start the inner workings of creating a clone of your version of WordPress. Okay, then pick a different one project and do it. Now, the reason why you do that is because as you are starting, as you learn programming and you start implementing what you have learned in a project, you start creating what you call a portfolio. And a portfolio is what is one of the things that makes it easy for you to get a job and give you an experience. So even if you're a newbie, you have never worked as a software engineer or a software programmer, but you have a couple of portfolios under your belt, it makes it easy for you to be absorbed in the workforce, since you can demonstrate that you can build something that is usable. They may not be perfect, but you have actually working solution. Then, apart from basically focusing on programming, um, look for a business. Okay, if look for a business that have a challenge that can be solved by a software. Sit down with the team, or if it's yourself, sit down with yourself, take yourself to a happy corner, and write down in prose what you want the solutions to achieve. Okay, and then once you have that one, start working that particular project. Now, the essence of that is you get it gives you the experience of being able to convert a problem that you are facing, other people are facing, into smaller chunks, and from the smaller chunks you are able to build a solution grounds up. So you're able to understand what the business wants, since almost all the solutions out here in the world, whether be it a game, be it an e-commerce, all of them started by from a business need. So, and that's being able to translate business speak to computer speak is a critical component as a programmer you need to be versed with. So we have talked about you being able to understand what and you getting a really good grasp of why you want to start programming, and you have an understanding of what field you want to go to, the importance of having a portfolio, and why you need to practice and practice and practice and more practice. Okay, now the next thing you need to decide on is the choice of the tools of trade, or the choice of your tools. Now, for a software programmer, you need pretty good hardware. Okay, um, you can start with 4 gigs of RAM, but that one's a little bit small. Start with around 8 GB, some decent disk space. You can do with a 56 GB of SSD, or the normal drive, and at least 2 gigs of graphic card. So I'm wondering, what are these? Okay, now each software that is installed on a machine occupies an amount of space. Okay, and for the software that you're building, apart from the software itself, you have what we call development environment. So you may find that you're using an IDE. An IDE stands for development environment that takes quite significant amount of space. For example, Visual Studio. Visual Studio, depending on what you do or what you are doing, it will eat up your disk space. So having enough disk space makes it easy. And if you are doing, if you go to the root of data science, then you need you need enough disk space for data that you be analyzing. Sometimes you may want to analyze terabytes of data or GBs of data. So this space is key. And if you're doing game development, For a game developer, you will use graphic cards a lot because of all the rendering. So the GPU, put your GPU to task. So you can't really work with a laptop or a PC that does not have a good graphic cards. You'll be frustrated. I have been frustrated in the past. So take note, if you go to game development, and sometimes even some tools that use in also design, video editing, um, even mobile, you need some good graphics. You need some good amount of RAM. Now, third thing you need to consider is your operating system. Operating system is most people begin from Windows. Now, Windows is a good operating system. Okay, for a basic user, Windows work fine for them. But as a developer, from my personal experience, Windows is a little bit challenging to work with, especially when it comes to configurations. You may find that you need to install a bunch of stuff. Sometimes you have to configure them, work with them, and well, you reach a point whereby you throw your hands. Now, if you're using the time that I can say it's really essential for you to use Windows is when you're when this when your software stack or um the the things that you're using to create your solutions, um, you can only use them using Windows. There are some tools that are specifically built to be run on Windows platform. Okay, but if that is not the case, then I would suggest get yourself install a Linux. I usually suggest for people just install the latest version of Ubuntu. Ubuntu is easy and it comes with everything and it's free, so you don't have to buy a license like you would for Windows. So it has text editors and everything. And a good part about life as a Linux user is that installing some of the software that you need for development, it's a breeze. 2 or 3 commands and you have your entire environment set up for you. So the only thing you need to worry about is the software that you're building. You don't have to fight the operating system, so you are set. If you're not sure and about Linux, then I'll suggest put it in a virtual environment. Use VirtualBox. I have a tutorial on the channel that talks about how to go about VirtualBox installation. So get VirtualBox, virtualize either Ubuntu or any other Linux distro. Play around with it, and if you're okay and you're not really sure, then do what you call dual booting. Dual booting is whereby you have 2 operating systems running on your machine. So you can decide when you're booting up your machine that you're using Windows, or when you're booting up, you have option of also running a Linux distro. Now the other one is the other one can be able to, another great option is using Mac. So Mac is really good. Mac is really good. It's also a good operating system for software programmers. Okay, it's similar to Linux in terms of development environment. It's easy to set up and really plays well with development tools. I've added Android there. You could do Android, you could do the Huawei. Those are cases whereby now, if you're a mobile developer, are you an Android app developer? Are you an iOS Android developer? Are you a Huawei Android developer? Okay, so knowing the your target market or your target software plays a critical role. So for example, if you want to be an iOS developer, then it means apart from just having a PC, you for iOS softwares, most of them you rate them from a Mac OS, okay? And to run iOS apps, you need an iPhone, okay? So, but if you're not interested in building iOS macOS specific applications, then Linux will work for you, or even macOS itself will work for you. So having a Mac gives you an edge over somebody who's just having Android, because you can be able to target both all those particular platforms. Now, as you're learning programming, you might be tempted to start with what we call an IDE, an integrated development environment. For example, Visual Studio is most popular, or a version of or any software from JetBrains. Now, the tools are okay; they are awesome. They have a lot of features that really make your work easy as a software engineer. My take is, don't start with those. Start with a basic text editor. For example, Notepad++, or VI or Emacs on Linux. They can also be used on Mac or even on Windows. You can be able to run Emacs or VI on Windows through using a software called Cwine. Okay, so the reason for starting with a basic text editor is that you get to understand the language itself without the help of the IDE. So you get to understand where the errors are. You get to understand the structures. You get to understand which features are there without having them being suggested to you by the IDE or through the auto-completion features. And once you're comfortable with the language that you are learning, then move on to IDE. From there, your life becomes even way simpler. Okay, and you already have the basics of the language that you have selected, and that is key, since sometimes you will find yourself in an environment whereby you do not have access to your favorite IDE, and the only thing you have is a text editor. So, and the text editor does not have the auto completions that you're fond of by using a particular IDE. Furthermore, when you're doing some tech interviews, you not have the IDE with you. For some of them, like a couple have attended, you literally have to type them out or select the type them out using a text editor, or even just write the program on a plain sheet of paper. So imagine the case whereby you are not, whereby the IDE did the most of setup for you. So in that particular point, you'll be lost. Okay, so once you have nailed those ones down, you understand why you want to be a programmer, you know which particular field you want to venture into. We've taken through the kind of minimal hardware I recommend. Okay, you know what particular operating system you have, you want to start with, then you're set for your journey as a software programmer. Okay, in case you have any question, leave them on the comment section below. I will respond as soon as possible. If you're new to the channel, give me support by liking the video, subscribing. I won't mind. I'll actually enjoy it. Until next time, have a good one.